Say hi.
Hi.
I think I'm in it. Okay.
Okay, morning.
We're on Tesvav Amid Beis. We're a little bit further now. The Gemara introduces a new subject.
Ooh, new subject.
14. Although the following discussion has no direct bearing on the subject matter of this Masechta, it is inserted here because the structure of this discussion is similar to that of the previous one. Previously, on 14b, the Gemara concluded that the Tana of our Mishnah, who disagrees with the Mishnah in Talmud concerning the sequence of daily services, is Rav Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. The Gemara had no proof for this assertion, but merely reasoned that since Rav Shimon Ish HaMitzvah is known to disagree with a different Mishnah in Talmud, he must be the Tana who disagrees in this case as well. This method of reasoning is uncommon in the Gemara, and the Gemara therefore inserts at this juncture the following discussion, which employs the same type of logic, in that, oh, we don't know who this is, but I know so-and-so argued on the person who said it elsewhere, so now it must be the person who argues here is also the same person. Let's see. Tanan Hasan. We learned in a Mishnah elsewhere, and that is in Tamid, Daf Lamed Amid Aleph, where the Mishnah describes part of the base Hamikdash activity surrounding the carbon of the morning Tamid.
Do you know how many dafim are in the Masechtas Tamid?
390.
Lower.
30.
Lower.
It says Tamid 38.
Tamid doesn't start from Daf base. Tamid only has 9 dafim. It's the classic 9 days Siyam Masechta, but it starts like on Chaf something.
Why?
Because it's like combined with a few different Masechtas. I forget what goes before and after. But
Really?
yes, even though we're quoting 30a.
Really?
It does.
Because I just did Lamed Gim. I just did Tamid from Daf Gimel to Daf Tes. So if someone says that, you know they're lying.
Right.
I didn't know that.
There you go.
Tamid is forever. Okay. Omer lahem hamnuna, hamimuneh. The appointed Kohen said to them, the Kohanim selected to offer the Tamid. So we have this deputy Kohen Gadol, and he's talking to the Kohanim that are bringing the carbon Tamid. Tu v'haviu tala milishkas beis hatlaim. Go out and bring a lamb for the Tamid from the chamber of lambs. This was a chamber in the Beis Hamikdash compound in which lambs that had been inspected and found to be blemish-free were stored. The location of this chamber will be discussed presently. At least 6 inspected lambs were kept there at all times to be available for the Tamid offering, and these were good lambs and not bad lambs. Valoy lishkas hatlam haisa b'miksayat safinis ma'aravis. Now the chamber of lambs was in the northwestern corner of the hall of fire. Now I want to bring you to, if you can scroll to the front of the Gemara, to the diagram of the second temple, which is very handy in these dafim of the Gemara. As you can see here, it's nice and colored.
Ooh.
So if we look, I believe it is over here. Look at 37. So you see that in 36 is the Beis HaMoked, the Hall of Fire. And in the Hall of Fire, there were 4 chambers. There was the Chamber of Lambs in the southwest corner. There was 38 is the chamber in which the Lechem Apanim was made.
That must have smelled nice.
Yummy. 39, chamber in which the Hasmoneans deposited the stones of the altar that was defiled by the Greeks. Because when they came to bring, you'll see later on, they came to bring Karbanos on Mizbeach, the Greeks had already done whatever Karbanos they were trying to, so they couldn't use the stones, so they had to build a new Mizbeach. But where did the old stones go? It went into number 39.
They kept them?
And 40 is chamber from which a tunnel led to a mikveh. And we'll talk about what that mikveh is. So you have these 4 different chambers, right? In the Hall of Fire.
Got it.
Now you know where the Chamber of Secrets came in. Okay. So,
One of my favorite Mishnahs. I'm blanking out what Masechta is right now, but it basically says exactly the place where the Aron Kodesh is buried. Underneath, it says that there's a stone that's slightly shaky, and it says exactly within which room in the base of Mikdash it is, and if you go on count 4 steps, you dig under there, that's where you could find it.
National Treasure?
Exactly.
Or Shawshank Redemption?
More like national.
it's an actual Mishnah?
It's an actual Mishnah, and I'm like, hello, this is Indiana Jones, real life. Let's go and get it.
Right.
But it also says that the people who tried to go never survived.
Like Indiana Jones.
Right.
Wow.
But if there's no survivors,
What Masechta is that?
what Masechta? I'll remember and I'll.
To find the Masech, you have to go to the hidden.
Yeah, I find a lot of Harry Potter is baked in Torah. Like she took themes from Torah.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly. No, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT to help me find that Mishnah, but we could continue while I find this. I think it's a cool Mishnah. Where is the Mishnah? It says where the wait, what is it called? The Iron?
I said southwest before, but the Gemara is now talking about the northwest. That's where the Chamber of Lambs is. I guess I'm reading the map wrong. So, we see that the Chamber of Lambs is in the northwest corner. And it says there were 4 chambers there. Va'arba lishachos hayusham. One was Achas Lishkas Akram. One was the Chamber of Lambs. The Achas Lishkas Hachois Samais. One was the Chamber of Receipts. Certain animal offerings must be accompanied by libations of wine and flour. These libations would be purchased from the temple treasury. The person bringing the offering would approach the kohen in charge of the receipts and pay the requisite amount for the type of libation that he required. He was then issued a receipt that could be redeemed upon presentation to a second kohen in charge with actually issuing the libations. The receipts were stored in the chamber of receipts. Mishnah Shkalab Gedalim and Beis relates that there were 4 types of receipts, each stamped with one of the following words: calf, ram, kid, or sinner. A receipt stamped calf would entitle the purchaser to the libation and meal offerings that accompany cattle offerings. The kid receipt to those that accompany offerings of small animals, sheep and goats. The ram receipt to those that accompany ram offerings. And the sinner receipt to those that accompany the animals offered by a Mitzvah, which he is purified of his affliction. Rashi. Different receipts were needed because the measure of libations of the meals offering varied depending on the type of animal that was offered. Interesting. So you think that when you need a receipt, you're bringing a carbon, you need to know exactly how much. They have a system. They have a system in the Beis HaMikdash where you get a receipt.
A receipt.
And you get to know, when you bring it in, they're like, oh, okay, I know how much wine you're supposed to get, how much flour you're supposed to get. It's all organized based on why you're bringing the carbon. So that was one of those chambers. So there were 4 chambers there. In this, we're going to learn that it's the northwestern corner is the Chamber of Lamps.
So basically, you had Kohanim that were accountants, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
And then you had the Kohanim who were bakers. And you had the Kohanim who were butchers, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Fire starters.
Yeah.
One
Pyromaniac.
was the Chamber of Fire. This was a small chamber that opened into the large hall of fire. Its confined quarters also contained a bonfire for the purpose of warmth.
Mm-hmm.
Others explain that this chamber was used to store the equipment needed to maintain the bonfire in the nearby hall of the fire. So basically, if you had the hall of fire where you're going to keep the logs and the items you need to make the fire, the sticks and all that, according to Rabbeinu Hananel, the additional fire was burnt as insurance, so that if the main fire was extinguished, this one would be available for kindling the mizbeach. So, the achas lishka sha'osin ba lechem hapanim, and one was the chamber in which they made the delicious panim bread. And if you look at Rashi on lishka sha'osin ba lechem hapanim, there's a Rashi on the at the end of the page, the second to last widest line, shall base Garmo. That was the Garmo family. Eisen Sham Meisa Lechem Apanim Shal Sham. So if you're ever going to open a bakery,
I know, I'm surprised.
I highly recommend you name it Garmo. Garmo, and you can call it Garmo Bakery, Garmo Breads, something like that. And you might have tremendous success as it relates to your bakery business because you're summoning the schusim of this family that was in charge of the Lechem Hapanim.
No copyright infringement. Right?
No.
It's too
I don't.
late. I mean, it's past the.
I just love it. Like when I saw this Rashi from the art school over here, I just thought it was so cool to be like, yeah, that was the Garmo family. You know, like,
Sure.
you know, like Italians make the pizza and this and that. And like, you know, the Garmo family that live up the block. You know, like you never really get specifics
think,
like
though,
that.
They got a bad rap, though. We'll see soon. I don't know if you read it.
Oh, really?
I think they were the ones who didn't really want to share the recipe.
Do not name your bakery Garmo.
It was either them. There's two stories. One is the people that had the bread recipe, and the other ones who had the incense. What is it called? The smells recipe. One of them didn't want to share it, and they got in trouble. Their ring, like every Cohen family had a ring by where they would come to the lambs, and they would always come to leash their lambs to those rings. That family, their ring got locked, and they were never allowed to use it because they kept it in the family and they didn't want to share the secret.
Don't be stingy.
Yeah. So lesson.
Oh, this was brought like
ages.
this was just brought. I don't know if it's mentioned in this Gemara, but it was brought.
It's in Talmud.
Oh, it's in Talmud. Okay, so now we just brought.
See if that interests you. You could see further in Talmud.
Let us know about the Garmo family. Or menu, but contrast this with the following Mishnah and note the contradiction. Right, we just said where was the lechem, the chamber of lambs? It was in the northwestern corner. As I zucked this. Okay, so we just said it was in the northwestern corner. We have a Mishnah that says, there were 4 chambers that opened to the hall of the fire. Lit Rocklin, like suites that open to a ballroom. 2 of the chambers were located in the consecrated portion of the hall of fire, and 2 were located in the unconsecrated portion. And the tops of the posts separated between the consecrated area and the unconsecrated area. And what purpose did the chamber serve? The southwestern chamber, it was the chamber of the sacrificial lambs. Oh, that's why.
Same as before.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that was
the northwest. That's why but if you look at the diagram, it's in the southwest. That's why, yeah. So, Droimis Mizrachas, the southeastern chamber, he Lishka Shahaya Oisim Ba Lechem Apanim, it was the chamber in which they made the panim bread. Mizrachas Tzafinis, the northeastern chamber, Gunzu Beis Chashmenai, Avni Mizbech Sheshiktsum, Malchi Oibde Kachavim, within the Hasmonaians concealed the stones of the altar that had been defiled by the kings of the idolaters, as we said before. Tzafinis Ma'aravis, the northwestern chamber, by Yarden Levei Satfila. Through it, they descended to the immersion room. Note 3, Kohanim slept in the hall of fire at night. If one of them became tummy on account of a seminal mission, he would go out through the northwestern chamber, from which a tunnel led under the temple mound to a mikvah. The entrance to the tunnel was located in the northern unconsecrated portion of the hall of fire, because when he was tummy, it was forbidden to enter the consecrated area. Okay, so we have a stira. One says it's in the northwestern chamber, the hall of lambs, and here it says the southwestern. Which is it going to be? Amar Rav Huna, comes along Rav Huna, the Heilige Rav Huna, whose neshama should have an aliyah. Man Tana Midos, who is the anonymous Tana that taught tractates Midos? Midas was which one? Was the second one, the southwestern. It is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov he. It is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Zok Rashi, all anonymous Mishnahs and Tractates Midas reflect the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Thus, the second Mishnah, which appears in Tractates Midas, reflects the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. He disagrees with the author of Tractate Tamid on Daf Lamed, which is the source of the first Mishnah cited above concerning the location of the Chamber of Lamps, which said it was in the northwestern. So the diagram in the initial page of Art Scrolls, Daf Yud, is this idea of Rebbe Eliezer, the psak of Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rebbe Eliezer, the son of Yaakov, whose neshama should have an aliyah. Rav Huna adduces support for the assertion that the anonymous Tan of Midas is Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov. Titnan, for we learned in the Mishnah tractate Midas. Esas Nashim Haisa Eirich Mea Ushleishin V'chamesh Al Reichiv Mea Ushleishin V'chamesh. By the way, I think this is where we're going to get into, like, how do you know it's Rebbe Eliezer ben Yaakov? Oh, because he argues somewhere else. Maybe, I don't know. Remember, we're bringing this whole Gemara to
find... I mean, note 4 said, all anonymous missions
yes, I don't know.
this reflective view of Eliezer ben Yaakov.
But maybe this is where we get the idea from. Let's see. Titnan. Ezas Nashim Haisa Eirich Mea Ushleishin V'chamesh Al Reichiv Mea Ushleishin V'chamesh. The women's courtyard was 135 amas long by 135 amas wide. Go to the diagram.
Nice square. Beauty square. The green?
Number 6. Yeah, the green. It's like a plus. It's like, this is where
I think
emergency medicine...
purple, actually, right?
Oh, you're right.
Because...
That's the gateway.
What are those 9s? The gallery above. Oh, because it was also a second floor. But on the bottom floor, it was the whole thing.
We have to know this, Lamaisa. Rabbi, so we have to know the temple, the Beis HaMikdash, because we're going to be there in the flesh
These are the
very soon.
blueprints, so we got to have some architects, you know?
Different than the first, I imagine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very different?
Yeah, it's much bigger.
What, the second?
It's bigger.
Want to see something cool? Look at 55.
55? Yeah, Kodesh Kodashim.
Okay. And then look at, like 56. You basically, like, walked the perimeter. Or 59. Like, you can walk in the 11 amma space. Yeah, like, you're, like, right behind that. You know, like you think you can't get close. You can get pretty close to it without, you know, if you're in the front all the way by like 47, you're far away from the Kodesh HaKodashim. But like, you're able to walk the perimeter. It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
What's the closest us Yisraelim can go?
I think we're allowed to go into the Ezra's Nashim, but you can't go past those steps where 15 is.
No, I see 19. Ezra's Yisrael.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so you could go up through 19. You can't go past 20.
Can't go into 20, right?
Yeah. Yeah, only Kohanim
Levium
into there.
and Levium. Levium stood there to sing.
But basically where the Mizbeach is by 21.
So all these people going to, like, to the Temple Mount and all that, like, you have to be careful, no? Just go up to that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's signs like "Don't go here," you know.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe in like 3 different languages.
No, the Arabs have control over there. There's no signs related to Jews.
Oh, today. Yeah, I actually had a really cool VIP tour once where I was on top of the Kosel overlooking Har Bayis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's actually fascinating because when you're standing there, you see all the people davening on one side, mamash davening to the wall, and right on the other side of this, 1 foot thick wall, kids playing soccer, barbecuing.
Really?
Yeah. So it's just so funny. There's like a wall. Everyone's down. Here, kids, soccer.
Really?
Courtyard, just grass and trees. Just crazy. One side, the other side. So this is just fascinating to see from that vantage point. Highly recommend if you're ever in Israel.
You said it's VIP. Level. How are the people supposed to do that?
kosher
Very
money.
important pesos. That's what this means.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like trees playing soccer on like the holiest.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It honestly, it was sad at the same, like
You know what? That would be an interesting Tisha B'Av visual, like a video. Like, if you find it hard to cry over the Beis Hamikdash, visualize this. Take a look at this scene, and it shows Arab boys kicking soccer balls over the Temple Mount.
Yeah.
And side by side with the Kedusha and the desecration of what's taking place today.
yeah, that's it.
Okay, so
Do you have any Israel plans? Any
not
trip-
right
Israel
now,
trip
just
plans?
Mashiach.
Okay.
So yes, now. So there was 100. So that woman's courtyard, that purple, was 35 amas, 135 by 135. Right, that's the square. And 4 chambers were located in its 4 corners. You see 11, 10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
13. Umay mashmais, and what functions did they serve? What were the mishamshois? Throimis Mizrachos, the southeastern chamber, Haya Haishalish Gas Nazirim. It was the chamber of the Nazirim. Shasham Nazirim Vashlam Es Shalmehen. For there the Nazirim cooked their shlamim offerings. Umegalchan Sa'arna Mishalchan Tachas Hador. Cut their hair and threw it under the cauldron in which their shlamim offerings were cooking. You knew they burnt their hair? I think we learned the entire Nazir, and I don't think I remember them
burning of the
hair. Maybe I missed that. Or forgot. I probably forgot. Mizrachas Tzvainis, the northeastern chamber, he haisad lishkas ha'etzim. It was the chamber for the storing the
That's
wood.
a good question. What did they do with the hair? Like, ask someone on the street, like, what did they do with the Nazir's hair after they cut it?
So, note 9. When a Nazir completes his term in Naziris, he must bring a group of offerings, including Eilachatas and Shlamim. You remember that well. After the blood is applied to Mizbeach, the Nazir shears his hair, cuts, which he had been forbidden to cut during the term of his vow, and throws the shorn hair into the fire that is under the cauldron in which the meat of the shlamim is being cooked. That's like poetic in some ways, like
fueling the fire.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's so interesting. Like the smoke that's arising is from the.
I feel like burnt hair probably doesn't have a good smell.
No, I don't think it does.
I could ask.
But maybe it cooks the meat in a certain way that gives the nazar.
Okay.
Mizrachas Finest, the northeastern chamber, he Haishalish Gasa Eitzim, was the chamber for storing the wood that was used to fuel the altar's fires. Shisham Kaihanim Bali Mumin Oimdim Masliin Ba'etzim. They are the physically blemished Kaihanim, we don't throw them away, who were disqualified from performing the Avodah, stood and examined the wood for worms. So they're looking at the wood for worms. Let's look at note 11. Being unable to partake in the Avodah itself, the blemished Kahanim contributed in this manner. Shekol Eitz sheyesh by Tlas Pasal Legam Mizbeach. Since any piece of wood that has a worm in it is disqualified for use upon the Mizbeach, note 12 is what I wanted, wormy wood cannot be placed upon the altar because it is imperfect and thus akin to a blemished offering. So do we throw away wormy wood? Not exactly. The Meiri says that because worms are non-kosher, they may not be burnt on the altar. So, if a dry log was found, as Zoizak Rashi Menachas 85b, if the dry log was found to contain worms, they were scraped out and the log would be used. However, a moist log that was found to be wormy was discarded since it is difficult to fully purge the worms from moist wood.
All right.
That's the mitzias of wet wood.
So now, by the way, if you ever see a kohen who has a mum, you can tell him, don't worry. First of all, they say when Mashiach comes, no one's going to have mumun anymore. But it's actually nice to know that there were still jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I check off when I'm filling out a job application, like, do you have a disability? Like, there's so many lists of disabilities, mumim, that are on there. We're trying to have equality and diversity.
Early Kayan gets the worm.
Anyways, there's jobs for everybody. Walmart greeters, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, you can change the whole dynamic. A good greeting can make someone spend so much more.
Exactly.
You're the first line of offense. What else is happening in this space? It's finest Maravis, the northwestern chamber. He haised Lishkas HaMitzayra'in. It was the chamber of the Mitzayros. Ma'aravis Doraimis, the southwestern chamber, Amar Lezer ben Yaakov, Shachachti ma mehoisa mishameshes. I forgot what function it served. And I love this because Yitzi Langer actually posted it, where like he loves when Rashi says, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a big Inyan. So then I forgot what function it served. Azoizok Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. By quoting this statement, the Mishnah implies to this point it has been citing the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov anonymously, as Zoizok Rashi. Otherwise, the current quotation would be pointless. Thus, we learn that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is the anonymous Tana of the tractate Midas. Abishal Omer. Abishal says, "Bahayu noisin yayin v'shemen." In it, they used to place wine and oil. Be haisin nikres lishkas beis shamnaya, and it was called the chamber housing the oil. We learn from this that the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is the anonymous Tana of tractate Midas. So that answers the stira that we had before about southwest and northwest. And southwest, we see over here is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Or whatever, he's talking about something else. Anonymous is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, so then the other one is also Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The second Mishnah.
I think the Gemara is going to continue, it looks like, to explain it. But we'll stop here.
Okay.
Big shkoyach.
Shkoyach.
Lovely.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.